You are a Utah educator focused on your students. You want what's best for them and for your career. But do you ever get frustrated about your curriculum, your class sizes, your student testing regimen, or your salary? Who makes those decisions anyway? You may not realize it, but much of what you need to be effective as an educator is decided outside your classroom, often by people without much education experience. But there is a way you can help educate these decision makers and make a real difference for your students, the teaching profession, and our Utah public schools. The Utah legislative session is just 45 days long, but in that short amount of time, hundreds of bills are written, debated, and voted on. In a typical year, the legislature proposes more than 100 education-related bills. Importantly, each year during the legislative session, the legislature also debates and passes the more than $5 billion public education budget. Utah legislators serve part-time. These elected representatives and senators come from all walks of life. Few are career educators. Yet every year they make dozens of decisions that directly impact your school, your classroom, and your profession. That's why it's so critical for educators' voices to be part of the policymaking process. The Utah Education Association has a lobby team working full-time at the Capitol during the legislative session, advocating for educators and working closely with the legislators on education policy. But nothing else replaces the impact of first-hand personal experiences shared by educators with legislators about their students, classroom, or school. Stories from educators illustrate the real-world impacts of policy and funding decisions on students and schools. But don't just take it from us. Legislators will tell you that speaking directly with educators is powerful and influential in the policymaking process.
Everybody's favorite day of the legislature is when kids come up to visit us, followed only by when teachers come up to visit. Not only is it fun for legislators, but it's really impactful in terms of making sure that you as an educator have the resources you need to help your students thrive. I think the best way to get involved and get a hold of your legislator is good old-fashioned phone call. Call them, text them, leave a voicemail, followed by email is also an effective way. Initially, I was inspired to get involved with politics because of one of my daughter's teachers. I volunteered in Ms. Cornea's kindergarten class, and I saw what she was dealing with and the challenges she was facing, having 29 kindergartners in one class with no help. And that really inspired me. And I feel like all the Mrs. Corneas of the world, if you would reach out to your legislator and tell them the challenges that you see and the way that additional resources could help your students, would make a huge difference for generations to come.
I think it's great that educators want to talk to legislators because we obviously don't know everything that goes on in the classroom on a day-to-day and hour-by-hour basis. It's wonderful when we have individuals that come to us with ideas, come to us with disagreements in an agreeable, pleasant way. And so we really appreciate that.
I've had some wonderful experiences meeting with educators, and I love when they come to the Capitol and I can meet them one-on-one and talk to them. I think when educators come and talk to me, if they really want to persuade me or help me to understand what's going on, a personal story or a real experience is most effective because that really brings it home. And that allows me to step into their shoes just for a moment and understand what they're going through.
That's why UEA encourages educators to get involved in the legislative process. And UEA makes it simple to get started. Whether you email your legislator about an issue of concern, attend a weekly UEA Educator Day on the Hill event, or decide to become a UEA policy ambassador, it's easy to get involved and you can make a difference.
We've had a lot of success recently because of teachers. We've had a lot of success in this state because of the advocacy of teachers. I work in special education, so I like to tell stories of the support staff, the social workers and the psychologists that are necessary, how they're saving lives, literally, how school nurses are helping. And politicians don't know that without hearing it from teachers. They may pass a bill that says, we want some funding for social workers. And they may increase funding and say, oh yeah, hopefully this trickles down to increase support staff positions. but they don't know the benefit that it's doing until teachers come and tell them.
I think teaching is political. I think being an educator is inherently political. That being said, if you're uncomfortable with that, I think advocating and politics are, in some ways, can be separated a little bit. And so when you're going to advocate, I think the best way for, if you're uncomfortable with that, to think about it is you're teaching them. You're doing what you do every day, right? Instead of just teaching a student or educating someone around you in a school, you're educating that politician or that lawmaker on how they can make better choices for education and for the state of Utah.
My first experience lobbying at the Hill was terrifying. I knew nobody. I was still new with the association. I didn't know what was going on. And so I found that one friend and he took me up and I talked with my legislators for the first time. And after we talked to my representative, I went up to my senator all by myself. And that was, again, terrifying. But I found a purpose for me. And I think it was about mental health. And so I talked with my senator about mental health and how that was impacting my students in a negative way because there wasn't anything for them at that point. And I was like, listen, my kid is suffering. He doesn't have anything. Like, I love your bill. And he's like, come and testify with me. And I was like, okay. So this is terrifying for me to go up in front of so many people who were like big wigs, like people who were in charge. But it made me feel like I wasn't just a teacher, right? I had a bigger purpose and I could make myself known and I was there for my students to make their lives better and it was really fun.
I was tired of seeing people with good intentions and incomplete information. We are the specialists of everything we do. We are in the field helping our kids, helping parents, helping the staff. And we have a lot of good people in politics that want to help us, but they don't know what we do. And sometimes that gap between the information and the desire to do good make it impossible for us to better serve our communities.
As a legislator, we're expected to know a little bit about everything, but it's impossible to be an expert on everything. And I really rely on the educators in my community to get in touch with me and help me be up to speed on the issues that they're seeing and the impact that they will see in terms of legislation that's being considered. I really encourage our teachers to get involved, speak up, share their perspective and their expertise on these issues.
You have knowledge that we don't. You have real world experiences of being in the classroom. My neighbor across the street is a school teacher. I have several in my subdivision. And I ask them, you know, when legislative things come up, I'll say, what do you think about this and this? And they're not shy in telling me. So you have something that I don't. I have never worked as a teacher. And I've been in a lot of classrooms as a guest, which I love doing, but I can't get what you have because you have that experience. You need to come share it with me. I'm waiting for you to come share that with me.
Our legislators need to hear from you. Get started today at myuea.org/legislature. There you'll find regular legislative updates and links to all the tools available to help you navigate the process. By speaking up and getting involved, you can make a difference for your students, your career, and for Utah public education. Make your voice heard.